Kaustubha Das here with the big announcement for Wisdom of the Sages listeners. This August will be Ashram Month at the Super Soul Farm. Simple ashram living, rising early, morning kirtan, yoga and pranayama, healthy vegan and vegetarian meals, farm seva and being immersed in nature, and then gathering in the evenings for kirtan and readings. Plus, each week we'll have a lead presenter teaching a different facet of the philosophy and lifestyle of Bhakti Yoga. Week number 1 will be the exceptional Bhakti Lata teaching a course called The Beauty of Bhakti, bringing the culture of love and devotion into our lives. Week number 2 is my brother from another mother, Raghunath, teaching Falling in Love with Divinity, the Bhakti Yogi's method for opening the heart. And week number 3 is myself with a course called Following the Path, examining the history and teachings of Bhakti Yoga. You can come for 1, 2, or all 3 weeks, and the pricing is by donation. For more dates and information, go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. Peace.
Live from charming Tuscany at Villa Vrindavan in the Tuscan foothills. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Tuscany. And we're here live with about 70-something students here. And it's another ecstatic day. It's hot. We're in a European heat wave right now, and we're dealing with it. We're going swimming today. We're jumping in a waterfall river. We're going to Siena. We're singing. We're doing yoga. We're eating great food. We have incredible company that we're keeping. And I tell you, the joy of my life is finding cool people, inspiring people, and keeping them close to me. And that's why I'm with you, Kaustubha Das.
Oh, that's why I'm with you too, Raghunath. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
You miss Roma?
Not yet. I mean, I'm here.
I know. You're very present.
I'm present. Now. Yeah, I'm here now. But I guess part of me does miss it. Sure, why not?
You miss the Pope?
Well, I saw the Pope. I did see the Pope.
You did? You know what? You wrote me a text message that said you saw the Pope, and I thought you were joking. You actually saw the Pope.
I did. I was there. Gita Priya was there.
Like he was getting out of the car. You're like, hey, Pope!
No.
How did it work?
No, it's called the Angelus. The Angelus. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. I was looking up what it means. It means like they kind of have like a morning, afternoon, evening thing too. You know, like
a morning program, an evening program.
Exactly, and it involves this particular ritual involves the chanting of the Hail Mary prayer.
Okay.
Do you still remember that one?
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death.
Amen.
Amen. I know that because whenever my car wouldn't start as a teenager, that was my please start the car. That was my start the car mantra I used. And it works. If I'm serious, it works to start cars.
It's all real. So myself, Gita Priya, Akikoji, Sri Rupa, we all went to see him. They do it publicly on Sundays. When he's in Rome.
They just chant that prayer once?
No. He speaks for about 20 minutes, but it includes the chanting of the Hail Mary.
I told you I used to do rosary after dinner during Lent, right?
No kidding.
My father was into it. He was like, we would chant, basically it's chanting japa. We just sit there for maybe an hour, a half hour, and go through the entire rosary beads.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very good. Did you confess?
I never did confession, no. I didn't make it that far. I think my parents got a little out of it.
Okay. Well, anyway.
We switched from the regular mass to the folk mass. That's in the basement where they offer Dunkin' Donuts. And the guys come out with 4 acoustic guitars. We sing Day by Day, Blowing in the Wind. They were like anything to keep people in the church there. They're like
they used a donut for the Eucharist.
They used a donut for the Eucharist.
Actually,
Body of Christ.
There's a story that I heard.
They dip it in coffee and then
Bhaji Narayan Swami, I heard him describe this once, but he said that Srila Prabhupada was in Los Angeles, and he has those nice rooms, and he has those rooms in Los Angeles. Yeah. You can visit them now. It's kind of like a museum now, and there was a Catholic priest that was visiting and was impressed. This was early on, like probably in the early 70s. And this priest was really impressed with all these young devotees. And so he was meeting with Srila Prabhupada, and they're going back and forth. And then finally, like the priest has said to Srila Prabhupada, like, how are you doing this? How are you getting all, like, we're struggling to get young people interested in God. and you have all these young people, and they're getting into it, and they're really enthusiastic. What's the secret? And so Prabhupada said, well, I hear that at your services you have this wafer. Oh, I actually have to prep this story, but in any case, earlier they had offered the priests glubjamins.
Oh yeah.
So
Maybe if the Catholic Church adopted
that's where he went.
glubjamins.
That's where he went. So he said, and the priest was particularly fond of him. He was like, which is, for those that don't know, it's kind of like a donut ball floating in syrup.
Well, Dunkin' Donuts also sells those donut, what are those called? Donut holes?
Oh yeah. Take
Like
a
little
donut hole,
sponge.
drop it in syrup. It's something like that, but that doesn't really fully get it.
Yeah.
But it's very delicious. And so, and the priest was enjoying the really like, oh man, these things are great. So Prabhupada said, so I hear you have this wafer. He said, yes. So he says, if you replace that with this glubjamin, he said, oh,
More
okay.
people will come on.
That might work.
Well, you know what? I feel like Catholicism, and I sort of liked it. It's not like I was anti it, but it was. I felt like it had that gravity. It had the songs. I like the songs. I sang the songs. It had the holiday romanticism to it. You know.
Okay.
They need more stories.
They got a lot of great stories.
You know.
You just haven't been reading them lately.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. And I felt like it's all grave. It's
No.
I don't feel the joy.
Maybe it was presented that way in your
well.
in your particular.
Yes, I mean it was,
church.
but I mean it was
Maybe-
a lot of gravity, and I think
Yeah.
it's important to be grave,
Mhm.
but it was definitely not kid friendly. I found
Okay.
I was just sort of like a weird kid who liked.
Yeah, it
religion.
wasn't. It was never. I had never had any interest in participate. As a kid, I was forced to go,
Yeah,
and it was just the thing you had to do.
yeah, but maybe Indians are forced to go to do stuff too. I don't know. I will say my kids like going. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's
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 more-
joy. It's like a party.
Yeah.
Even if you go to the holy cities in India, Haridwar, it's an equivalent to like a carnival.
Everybody jump in the
You know,
water.
Jump in the water. Hey, we're gonna jump in the water. Hey, we're gonna eat some food. Hey, we're gonna throw flowers.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Okay, so in any case, I was thinking it's Walk on Wednesday. We couldn't get the Pope,
Couldn't get the.
but
Did you try?
well, he was very far away. I was trying to get his attention. You know, like the way it works is
You
there's-
got to use mirrors.
Oh,
That was that in my eye.
I think I might have got
God,
shot if
it's
I did that.
Kaustubha.
But it's this hugest courtyard you've ever seen in your life, big round courtyard. And then there's a building, and he's in this window, like up on the top floor, and you can see him up there, and he starts to speak. But when he came out, like everybody gets they start to ring the bells, and then he comes out, and Akiko's there, like, we love you.
Aw, Kiko.
But he spoke, and so I figured maybe I could share a little something about what he spoke about.
Oh, really? You took notes on what he
I didn't
said?
take notes, but like 10 minutes later, they put it up.
They post it.
This
Are
is
you
like,
subscribed to his newsletter?
no, I just Googled it rather than
Okay.
But this is Pope. This is an article about what he said, but it's largely quotes from it. And it says, Pope at Angelus, listen to Jesus. Everything else comes after. Okay, and I thought this was a consistent message with our practice. Okay, so it said at his Sunday Angelus, Pope Francis turns to the liturgy and uses it to explain why listening to the words of Jesus must always be our priority as it guides us towards everything else.
Sounds like he's keeping the main thing the main thing.
Exactly, and he's putting Shravanam, hearing like way up in the priorities. Okay, but not only is he doing it because he's saying Jesus did the same thing. So it was a story. It said, addressing the faithful gathered at St. Peter's Square for the Sunday Angelus, Pope Francis described the day's liturgy which presents us with the story of Martha and Mary,
Martha and Mary.
two sisters offering hospitality to Jesus in their home. The Pope recounts that Martha welcomes the guest while Mary sits at Jesus' feet to listen to him until Martha turns to Jesus and asks him to tell Mary to help her. All right, like, I'm taking care of everything here. I'm doing the responsible stuff.
Right.
And Mary's just sitting here like listening to Jesus. Come on, there's like important stuff to get done. Jesus, could you tell her to get more responsible? It was like that.
Okay. Yeah. Do more.
Do more.
Do more. That's our lesson today.
No, hold it.
Oh, it's not the lesson.
Yeah,
That's
Jesus.
the opposite of the lesson.
Jesus answered. Or so Martha turns to him, asks, "Tell Mary to help me." Martha's complaint does not seem out of place. Indeed, we feel that we are agreeing with her," said the Pope. Yet Jesus answers her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things, but few things are needed. Interesting, right? You're in many things, few things are needed. You're going wide, go deep. You're talking about that this morning, right?
Go deep.
Yeah. So he said, Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her. Okay. This hearing is like an eternal process. The value of it and the transformation is like an eternal thing. Pope Francis noted that though it is a surprising answer, Jesus often overturns our way of thinking. Quote, let us ask ourselves then why the Lord, while appreciating Martha's generous care, says that Mary's attitude is to be preferred. The Pope went on to note that Martha's philosophy seems to be duty first, pleasure second. And then hospitality is not made of fine words, but demands that involve doing whatever it takes to make the guests feel welcome. Jesus is well aware of this, said the Pope, and he acknowledges Martha's efforts, but he wants to make her understand that there's a new order of priorities. Mary, said the Pope, has realized that there is a better part that must be given first place. Everything else comes after, he added. The better thing, he specified, is listening to Jesus' words. The word of Jesus is not abstract. It is a teaching that touches and shapes life, changes it, frees it from the dullness of evil, satisfies and infuses it with a joy that does not pass. It is the better part, explained the Pope, and it is for this reason that Mary prioritizes it. She stops and listens, and the rest will come later.
I like it.
That, right? In other words, you hear you make time, and I think later on, of course, it was all in Italian, so I couldn't understand it all.
Right.
But later on in his talk, he began to describe we all have important things to do. We're not saying don't take care of the important things, but you have to set aside some time to hear, and everything else comes after that. Meaning, that's what informs my entire day. That's what informs my life. That I don't want to put a ladder up and work real hard and climb the thing and find out later that it's against the wrong wall, right? So let me hear, let my mind be transformed, let my sentiments be transformed, let my thoughts be elevated, let me get my priorities straight, and then everything else will follow.
You know what I took away from that? I felt like it's one of those things about the Vani and Navapu also. Maybe
Okay.
that's a stretch, but there's the idea of serving the body of the guru. The guru's come, let me get you a glass of water. Let me, are you hungry? What can I do for you? And that's a nice way to serve the teacher. But they said, Prabhupada would say the better way is to don't necessarily serve my body, serve the message of
instruction,
the
the
guru,
Vani.
the instruction of the guru.
Yeah.
Although
you could flip it that way, because in one sense, it was Mary that was with the Vapu, and it was Martha that was. But I get your point, because he was giving instructions, and so she was like, "That's
that was.
Let me hear the
That's what I mean.
instructions." Yeah.
Let me hear the instruction. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we saw the Pope. It was nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're blessed.
He did bless us. He did it.
Like that.
Yeah.
Did everyone get that?
Everyone there.
Everyone
I
there.
don't think he left anybody out.
Everybody else. Everybody.
Yeah. Okay. It was sweet. Now, why don't we? There's some sad news that I wanted to share. It's sad. It's grave. And when was it that we brought Niranjan Swami on the show? It was some months ago, right? When the
he was
war in
talking about the
was heating
Ukraine.
up.
What happened in the Ukraine?
Well, so we brought Niranjan Swami on. I don't know how long it was, 2 months ago or something like that. And he's kind of responsible there, and he shared what was happening there. And many, by the way, I should mention, I don't know if I mentioned this on the show, but recently he spoke to a friend. He spoke to Vraj Vihari, and he said to thank us because, and that means not just Raghunath and I, but like all of the Wisdom of the Sages people, everybody that listens, because many people donated, and he said it was actually really important and it was really helpful.
They donated to their food relief program?
It wasn't just the food relief, but that was a large part of it. It was just to the on the ground devotees in the Ukraine that were like really in dangerous circumstances.
So they thanked us for promoting.
That. A lot of people responded, and he said it made a difference. It was important.
Oh, great.
The sad news is that there's a Food for Life program. In other words, a food distribution program.
Prasad distribution.
Prasad distribution. In other words, you have food that's offered to Krishna, run by Krishna devotees. There are two devotees there that had been running that going back long. There was a conflict there some years back, 6, 8 years back or so. Let me pull this up. I believe that was in the Donbass region. If I'm probably getting that wrong. Yeah, Donbass, right? There was a conflict between Russia and Ukraine back some years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was at that time that these devotees began to distribute food there, and they kept it going. So they were going like all along, like even when there was peace, and they stayed in this latest circumstance. They stayed there and they're feeding people. So normally they would feed like 1,000 people a week just under regular conditions. But when this intensified and when funds started coming in from outside, they were an essential part of like helping people through this conflict. So a few days ago, in their headquarters where their kitchens were and where they operated their Food for Life, a missile hit that headquarters. They were both in it, and they both died. And so why don't I just read this article on that just briefly? And it's sad news, but I think it's important that we hear, what people are doing in the name of devotional service, in the name of bhakti. This is the article. It's from the ISKCON News website. It says, on July 16th, two Food for Life devotees in Donbass named Krishna Tattva Prabhu, the director of the Food for Life program, and Madan Gopal Prabhu were killed in a missile strike that hit the Food for Life kitchen. They had just returned from prasadam distribution to the Food for Life base when a missile attack destroyed the building, and they were buried under rubble. Another devotee, Arjuna Prabhu, was injured and has been taken to the hospital. The Donbass Food for Life program provided over 1,000 hot prasadam meals weekly to civilians in the war-affected areas of Donbass since 2014, and increased its efforts throughout the ongoing Russian-Ukraine military conflict. They carry out charity programs in orphanages and rehabilitation centers for people with disabilities, organize hot meals at sports and social events, and help elderly and disabled people in their homes. So they deliver food to people in their homes. They spread the culture of being merciful and unite everyone who wants to bring kindness and love to people. As of today, the Food for Life in Lungst, I don't know how to pronounce it, Lungangst mission has not only lost its leader, but also the building from which the mission was operating. Both devotees who passed away were also pujaris in the local temple. So they were priests in the temple as well. Krishna Tattva Prabhu was born in 1982. He joined ISKCON in 1998 and received his first initiation from Bhakti Tirtha Swami. Madan Gopal Prabhu was also born in 1982 and joined ISKCON in 2004. He was a disciple of Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj.
Wow.
So
that's sad.
It's very sad. I mean, again, it's kind of going back to what we said. It's very sad news, obviously. And at the same time, it's, there's just a glory in how they gave their life. Yeah.
In dying while serving.
Yeah.
It's like Jatayu.
Yeah.
From the Ramayana is the famous devotee bird, vulture, that though he's very old, when Sita was getting kidnapped, he just flew up high and said, listen, I'm not going to be able to kill Ravana for sure, but I'm going to die trying. And so he just flew up in the air, declared, I'm a devotee of Lord Ram. And if you think you can take Lady Sita, you'll have to kill me first. And there's something very beautiful about a life of devotion, no matter how you die, because you just feel like you're being embraced. And that beautiful analogy of death comes in the form of a cat. You ever heard this analogy? Death comes in the form of a cat to everybody. And you are a materialist consciousness. What is the materialist consciousness? It is everything is mine. This is mine, my family's mine, my home is mine, my country's mine, my politics are mine, my stuff is mine. And then when death comes, you're like a rat. And you feel like, I'm dying. I'm losing everything. Everything that I identified with as me, I'm losing right now. And death comes for a spiritualist as well. Of course, you don't beat death, but you beat the relationship with death. And death comes in the form of a cat, but you're a kitten. And how does the kitten feel when the mouth of the cat grabs him by the nape of the neck? The kitten feels safe, contained, loved. It's death is still coming, but it's different because it's a lifetime of devotion. You realize my whole life I've been cultivating that nothing is mine. Everything will be lost. The only thing I have is just to give some love today. And when we really make that 100% of the thoughts, and when death comes, it's like the mother is here. There's no attachment and there's no loss. And the only sadness is, right, for the friends of these devotees, right? My sadness was not for Gopal leaving his body last week. It was for my sadness for not having him in my life.
Yeah.
It's actually very glorious to see, okay, here he is, the final countdown. It's all coming down. And look how you're standing. It's so beautiful.
You know, where we are right now in Villa Vrindavan, this ISKCON temple in Tuscany, in Italy. Right now, I believe there are 11 ladies here, Ukrainian ladies, devotees, refugees that escaped, the war,
I do not know.
and are taking refuge here. They may have children with them as well. The young men, it's harder to get out.
Right.
They allow the women and the children out. The men have to stay. But that being said, these men, they could have gone to safer areas of the country if they wanted to. That opportunity was there. They chose to stay there, and they chose to risk their lives to deliver prasadam, to be merciful, to give Krishna's mercy in the form of food. It's such a time of need. And so, in one sense, what clear illustration is there to, dear God, my life is yours, right? It's like, if I had my own plans and for my own pleasure and happiness, I would get out of this spot right now. But my life is yours, and there's service for you to be done here, and so I'll stay. And I may live, I may die, and they died. But it's a beautiful offering of their life, and so maybe we can all our listeners can say a prayer for Krishna Tattva Prabhu.
How about we say a Hare
and
Krishna
Madan Gopal Prabhu, and this
Hare
Arjuna Prabhu, who also was injured.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sending out spiritual love and great appreciation for people who've dedicated their life to spirit. There is no inauspiciousness. It's only auspicious. Sad for us because of our loss.
So many are still there, taking the same risk. So please pray for them as well. Okay. Do we have other announcements, Mara? Or any announcements?
Back to recovery group meetings today at 1 and 9:30 Eastern time. And Michelle Berger is offering an asana class for our Patreon members tomorrow evening at 7 p.m.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, I think like today or tomorrow they may close down the sign up for the Sage groups. Is Rachel around?
No.
No. Okay. Anyway, if you want to sign up, do it quick.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
You ready to dive into the sweet pot of nectar?
I'm ready. Say your mantras.
Goody pot. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before we start in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prishvabhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental song, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 39.
Text 39. Is it 39 or 38? Did we do 38 yesterday?
I think we did.
Okay.
I think that was the one verse we did.
Okay. So, again, Sanat Kumar he said there's so many different practices one can do, but if one wants to, as quickly as possible, most effectively as possible, achieve the goal of life, then the way that he recommended to do that was through bhakti, and through here he identified the Paramatma, the God within the heart. Focus your attention right there. Right? Focus your efforts right there. And he's going to continue with that. And this theme in these next two, maybe we could read these two verses, but the theme in these two verses has to do with a unique, I suppose you could say, unique quality of bhakti, or like a unique efficiency or effectiveness of bhakti compared to other yoga paths, which are valid, but still given this special status to bhakti yoga.
Alrighty. Text 39. The devotees who are always engaged in the service of the toes, right, of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord, can very easily overcome the hard, knotted desires for fruitive activities, right? Like a knot,
Hard knot.
hard knot in your shoelace. You just cannot untie it. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, right? The gyanis and the yogis, right? The yogis here, it means probably one who's mystic.
Yeah, why don't you read the verse and we'll talk about it.
Okay. All right, so let me start from the top. I'm just going to read it through. The devotees who are always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord can very easily overcome the hard knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the gyanis and the yogis, although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, cannot do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in bhakti, or devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. In text 40, the ocean of nescience is very difficult to cross because it is infested with many dangerous sharks. Although those who are non-devotees undergo severe austerities and penances to cross that ocean, we recommend that you simply take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are like boats for crossing the ocean. Although the ocean is difficult to cross, by taking shelter of his lotus feet, you will overcome all dangers.
What do you think? Why is this word ocean being? Why are we talking about an ocean?
Well, the ocean is one of these. I mean, if you grew up around lakes, you know that an ocean, you can get a point into an ocean, unlike most lakes where you can't see shore on any side.
Right.
So the idea of overcoming illusion or overcoming Maya is so great, it's unfathomable. And it's also you're directionless unless you know how to read the stars. And it's treacherous if there's a storm, and no food, and perhaps dangerous sharks. Sharks. You know what this verse reminded me of? It's like what a lot of us went through in the pandemic. A lot of people, if you're like a tradesman, you got rich. If you had stock on Amazon, you made some money. But a lot of people, especially our listeners who are yoga teachers, stopped working, closed yoga studio. A lot of people lost everything. In that anxiety, they had troubles in the family life. People got divorced. People who were many years sober got back into their addictions to medicate their pain. That was a very, very common thing. People who were mentally unstable or riddled with anxiety took their lives. Suicide was huge. And so a lot of us went through some so incredible times. It was like an ocean of inauspiciousness, right? For trying to deal, right, with this. What's the verse again?
39? 40,
Yeah.
40? The ocean, yeah?
Yeah, the ocean of nescience.
Ocean of nescience.
Although those are not. But a lot of the people, and someone just said it to me yesterday, I started listening to the podcast right when the pandemic hit, and thank God. There's a person you wouldn't expect.
Okay.
It was Rami Pandit, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Rami Pandit. She goes, I started listening to the podcast right in the beginning, and it really, and I didn't think of her. She goes, it really gave me some grounding. And I think a lot of us feel that way. The podcast, it's not because we're such great orators of the podcast, but we're reading the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam's eternal truth. eternal wisdom. It's something to hold on to. It's not like sort of gross. You can hold on to this land or this car or this body or this wealth. It's something subtle. And we found that the subtle was the solid. And the things that I thought were so solid, like, well, we own a yoga studio. And now I lost my yoga studio. This studio has been in business for and now we lost the yoga studio. The things that we thought were solid started getting taken away from us. And if we had whether we had loss or we had gain, whatever it was, the Bhagavatam was there as sort of a strong rope or a boat in this case, using this analogy, to cross this ocean, to deal with the pain of material existence that was exacerbated in the last few years.
Right. I think that's a great way to look at it. And I think you're exactly right when you're talking about the ocean. Why it's mentioning ocean is because it's so vast that you're helpless. It's like, in other words, if someone just dropped you in the middle of the ocean, how are you gonna get your way to safety? You're gonna need help. You can't do it on your own. And I believe that that's what it's saying here about when it's speaking about the Gyanis and the yogis. So let's get more into that, right?
Tease that.
So these are if you go to the Bhagavad Gita, and the Bhagavatam is consistent with this, it validates all these different paths of yoga. It doesn't say that they're not real. It doesn't say that they don't work. It doesn't depreciate the practitioners, but it also kind of places the other yoga paths on a ladder, you could say, a hierarchy, and it places bhakti at the top of that hierarchy. And as we've mentioned before on the show, someone might see that as being sectarian, but it's coming from the original text. Okay, it's not something that's being imposed on the tradition or coming out of some kind of sectarian thought within the tradition, but it's something at the very core of the tradition, right?
By reading the Bhagavad Gita objectively.
By reading the Bhagavad Gita, and again, this is something that we talk about, but in our sampradaya, in our lineage, there are teachers that they put forward an argument, right? They put forward a presentation saying, these texts are very vast. They're all coming from one author. It's difficult to put your finger on what's the most important part or what's the most essential part. But we're fortunate because it has been explained by the author himself. And he intentionally did that in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And even there in the first canto, you can read about how the author himself was instructed by his Guru Narada that you've presented all these texts that's really great. Even you put together Mahabharata, which was like really fantastic, and because that's got Bhagavad Gita, which is pointing people more specifically towards bhakti. But he said, still, people can be very confused. There's so much information there, and it's speaking to people on different levels. People may walk away with all different kind of ideas. You have to be more direct. You have to really present devotion to Krishna bhakti as the very goal of all life, the goal of yoga and the goal of human life.
My appreciation for the teachings of the Vedas is because it's not just black and white. There's a plethora of different ways you can approach God. And a parent knows this. Like, suppose we got here the Croatian twins here, right? Velcro and Road Rage. They're Croatian twins. And so imagine I'm their father, and they're teenagers, and they're doing their things. And Road Rage is, if I say Road Rage, you guys, I want you home by 10 every night, okay? Or else I'm not gonna let you use the car anymore. And Road Rage, being like a good boy, comes home every time by 10 o'clock. Now, Velcro, on the other hand, this guy's out of control. No matter what laws I lay down, he's just coming home at midnight on school nights. And so the parent just can't say, okay, it's my way or the highway, get out. There's only one way to live in this house. A good parent wants to keep their authority, yet try to understand the mentality of the child. Right?
Adapt to the individual.
Adapt to the individual. And therefore, it makes a concession. Okay, listen, Velcro, you can come back, you can stay till midnight, but midnight is the latest, and that's only on weekends, okay? Otherwise, the car is over, right? Now, sometimes the kid is so crazy, you gotta—
Or you might say 11.
Yeah, right, and so sometimes the kid is so crazy that the kid runs away, the parents have to say, you gotta get out. Some of you, the German posse is laughing because they're like, yeah, I was that one. But no, But the parents make those conscientious decisions according to the desires and the mindset of the children, and to keep their authority. And sometimes the kid just doesn't want to play ball, and they're sort of like leave the family at a young age, or runaways or something. And that's for people who just want nothing to do with their spiritual life. We see that. There's some people who want nothing to do with spiritual life. I'm going to figure out life without any information. I'm just going to feel around in the dark and try to figure out life. And some of us have gone that path, and now we are black belts in the Bhakti recovery group. And at the same time, the parent is maintaining the authority with the twins, but just noticing their differences. And that's what the Vedic paradigm presents: different ways to approach truth, to ultimately be fulfilled.
Here's a question.
Riddle me this,
Well, actually,
Kaustubha.
let's hold this question, and let's go back to the verses that we're reading, okay? If I can. Okay, so here we go. So it mentioned Gyanis and it mentioned yogis. I hope I'm in the right place here. Okay, here we go. So it said, I'll just read them again. The devotees who are always engaged in the service of so the devotees, right? It's right there. It's differentiating this group of yogis from other groups of yogis. The devotees who are always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord. In other words, it's not differentiating some devotees from others. It's not saying there are devotees that are absorbed in serving the feet, and then there are other. No, it's saying there's a category, the devotees, these yogis, the bhakti yogis, who happen to be engaged in serving the feet of the Lord. That's their yoga practice. They can very easily overcome the hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Well, that's so hard to do.
Why don't you explain what that means? The hard-knotted desire for fruitive, because we don't use that word fruitive.
We have every human being practically running around this earth has deep desires to fulfill, right? Deep desires, things that they want, things that they're convinced they need to be happy. That knot gets very tight. You know, what I need to be happy. And when we don't get it, we're heartbroken. When we lose it, we feel devastated. It's a very hard, it's a tight knot. Yoga is a way of releasing that knot, becoming free, right? Sure. It's got us tied very tight to these ideas, these illusions of what will make us happy.
So a simple example is, and there's, people that are married here, maybe they have a family here. How can you put divinity in the center of your home? How can that be a real thing? And in that, you see divinity in your children, but you're also cultivating the knowledge that I don't own my children. I actually don't even own this house. I don't even own this body. You're cultivating knowledge while within the material world. Where a Jnana yogi might say, you know how I deal with detachment? I become detached from everybody. I have no friends. I have no home. I live in isolation. I don't speak. Or I eat, I get detached from food. I stop eating. I fast a lot. I eat very, very little, frugally. Or this month, I only eat whatever.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's a real path to develop detachment.
Yeah.
I met a guy in India who was like this. And he was from he was a very beautiful
Is this
guy.
the mystic from?
This wasn't one of the mystics.
From Radhakund?
No. This is the guy. Very beautiful guy. And he was like this Ayurvedic guy, but he was the first guy. He read my mind, and he just said, anyway, I'm not going to tell the whole story. But this is my point was.
We're about to get a glimpse inside Raghunath's mind.
Right. This is all
He
real,
put the
this
brakes
stuff.
on it.
This is when I was looking for the mystic pranayam guy.
Okay.
So anyway, this guy said to me, yes, in my tradition. I said, do you have any children? He said, me and my wife have no children, but in my tradition, when we have a son, we give the son immediately to the ashram.
Wow.
I go, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, we give the son to be raised by the sannyasis, by the swamis. And then I was like, and then what? He goes, we never see the son again. I was like, you have a baby and you give the son away. And he goes, yeah. And then we don't see them because they give it through, there's different ashrams around. They give the child away and he's raised to be a swami. And me being me said, why would you do that? And he looked at me, he goes, I thought you would know to develop detachment.
I want them to have the best life possible. Right?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to development detachment. I was like, yeah, that's one way to develop detachment.
That's
You
pretty
just give
strong.
your child.
Yeah.
We're not recommending this. Do not give your children away.
So here it says that those devotees, the ones that are always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord, they can very easily, right? We're meant to. This is significant. They can very easily overcome the hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Now it's going to compare those devotees to other types of yogis, and so it mentions because this is very difficult. It just said it's easy for the devotees, but it's very difficult. Because it's very difficult, the non-devotees, the Gyanis and the yogis, these are other yogis, right? And we're going to say what that means. Although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, they cannot do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Let's be specific here, right? I'm saying Krishna, and I'm going to make sure you know the Krishna that I'm talking about. I'm going to tell you who his father was as well. So here, when we hear the word yogi, the word yogi can be used in many different ways, but it's being used in a specific context here, right? When we say yogi here, when you become familiar with reading these texts, you can understand because of the context, because it's being compared to bhakti yogis, because it's being compared to jnana yogis. When they're saying just yogi here, it means ashtanga yogi, right? It means that the person that's gone out to the forest and is sitting in lotus position and meditating, practicing austerity and so on, is talking about that kind of yogi. And a jnana yogi is similar. These are both karma sannyasis, people that walk away from their karma, or their when we say karma here, means their actions which are related to their duties, their dharmic duties in life, their roles as a mother or a father or a business person or whatever.
Sure.
They're walking away from it's saying that this is now. Why is it hard? The next text is going to start to talk about because you're stuck out in the ocean. When you're in the ocean,
you need some direction.
You need some help.
You need some direction.
Yeah, and so these types of yogis are saying, I don't need help, right? I'm going to do it. I'm based on my own renunciation, based on my own detachment, my own yogic strength. I'm going to untie this knot. I'm going to break the knot.
They both have their use. I mean, truthfully, we hear in our bhakti culture that this person is becoming a sannyasi, a monk. It's not really that much part of our tradition in one sense to give up everything like that and be focused.
At one point, like in our specific lineage, it wasn't even there.
Right.
I mean, well, it was kind of there, but it was there in a different way. But
yeah, the real thing is we give up the desire that we are the enjoyer of all this stuff and it's all about me. Yeah. And, I was with another interesting story. Can I share?
Yes, please.
I was on a plane heading to India with my daughter, and she was a little kid, and I'm sitting on the aisle seat, and the other aisle seat is this young sort of Indian kid, probably collegiate looking, but very American looking. And I said to him, I like to talk to Indians just because I like to find out their story and if they're into spiritual things or anything. And we started talking, and he said he just graduated dental school. And I said, what's your story? I said, well, where are you going? Oh no, I said, so your parents came here? And he said, yeah, my parents came here and we were raised by them and they struggled in America, but they, made some money and they put me to college and my older brother to college. And then my older brother became a dentist and I became a dentist. I said, oh, your older brother's a dentist also? And then he looked at me and his sort of face changed and he said, well, he was a dentist. What do you mean he was a dentist? And he sort of like changed moods and he just said, well, it's the reason why I'm going to India right now is my brother, he always had a spiritual calling and he's giving up family. I go, how old is he? He goes, he's 24.
Okay.
He's giving up family. Is he married? No, he's not married. We were best friends and we were very close family and he's giving up. And I said, and you're okay with that? He says, actually, at first I was very upset. And then he started to preach to me. He said, but in my culture, we understand that renunciation is so important and that there is a great, and we will sacrifice good for the great.
Yeah.
And we understand. And so we are going to India to wish him well, and we will never see him again.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And that is a very real part of this path is you give up everything.
Yeah.
And it is one real way to cultivate detachment.
Yeah. And either of those two categories, yogi, here meaning Ashtanga yogi, or Jnana yogi, could do that kind of thing, right? As a matter of fact, traditionally the paths demand that you do that, at least at some point in your life. Like, it may be that some people, like, they would conceive it as like, okay, early in your life you practice karma yoga, where you're engaged in society and so on. But then, in order to achieve the goal of yoga, you leave it all behind and you practice Jnana yoga, you know, in full on, with full renunciation. But what's being said here is that these paths are valid. They actually really work. And we can look in our text to find so many examples of people that practiced it and succeeded. But the path of bhakti yoga goes right to the very heart of the matter. And it's a path, because the idea is, like, for instance, the way the Bhagavad Gita presents Ashtanga yoga. It's presented to Arjuna in the 6th chapter. Go off alone, sit in the forest, sit in your lotus position, wherever your mind wanders, bring it back, stay focused. But the idea is that through that, it's a really difficult practice. It has these different limbs that you have to pass. You have to be incredible. First, you have to live a very pure lifestyle, right? Very selfless lifestyle. You have to do asana. You have to do pranayama. You have to do pratyahara. You have to begin to withdraw your senses and learn to concentrate your mind on, like, one point. And you have to go deeper and deeper into states of trance. States that are so deep that you even forget, like, that you are you, because your concentration is so deep on this object that you lose awareness of anything but that object, which is something that very few people walking this earth are capable of doing.
I can't
do it. And so
barely read a paragraph.
But the idea in the Bhagavad Gita is that the value of being able to do that is that once you've learned to concentrate so deeply, you can concentrate on the form of Lord Vishnu and fall in love and practice bhakti. So, like, when you get deeper into that 6th chapter, it's describing these very difficult, but then it's like, here's 629 through 31. A true yogi observes me in all beings. Krishna is saying to Arjuna, right? This is where it's meant to go. It's going towards bhakti. And also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me.
What a great verse. Read that again.
Yeah. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. And then he concludes the chapter with the very famous verse, of all yogis, the one with great faith, who abides in me, thinks of me within themselves, and renders transcendental loving service to me, they are the most intimately united with me in the yoga and is the highest of all.
Yoginam api sarvesham.
Matkate antaratmana.
You know that one, Karuna, right?
Karuna, you know that one?
Yeah, she knows.
Let's hear.
It's one of her 100.
Well, come up to the microphone.
Come up to the microphone right now. Come on.
Little
Karuna. 8 years old, Lebanon.
Yogi nam api sarvesham. This is text 647. Right into the microphone. Yeah, bring it up there.
Yoginam api sarvesha madgatan antaratmanam shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayuktatam mataha.
Oh, yeah.
Well done.
We're very impressed.
So the point is that the Gita, it's validating the different practices, but it's saying ultimately their value is found and their completeness is found when they bring you to bhakti, when they lead to devotion. Again, you're going to find when it speaks of Jnana Yoga, what is it? Bahunam janmana ante, Jnanavan mam prapanyate, vasudevam savam iti, samahatma sadurlabha. That when one's achieved jnana, when one can see clearly and becomes detached, then they surrender unto me. But the path of bhakti, it just goes right there in the first place, right? These, in one sense, the other yogis are saying, Krishna, I don't need your help. I've got my own yogic power. I got my detachment. But here it's saying, when Vyasadeva finally wants to fully clarify, he's saying, no, you're out in the ocean, right? There's sharks out there. You can't see the shore.
Storm's coming.
Storms are there. But you can easily get to if you just take shelter of that boat, and that boat is the boat of devotional service.
And someone like Karuna, like right from a parent who's raising a child in bhakti, then they're learning immediately from childhood, oh, that flower. Let's pick this flower. Let's offer this flower.
Let's offer it.
Oh, look at the sunset. Krishna's Krishna's the light of the sun and the moon. You know? You're learning these from like childhood. That you read the verse again. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me.
I'm never lost to them, nor they ever lost to me. It means when they're never lost to me, I'm there looking out for them, right? Like he's moved by that devotion. Whereas for the other yogis, they're saying, I don't need your help. He's saying, okay, when you need me, let me know. But you're out there in the ocean.
The mother or the father is always even more concerned for the child, especially the child who goes astray, right? You could have 5 kids, all good kids, but one of them just goes astray. Doesn't come home, never hear from them. And the mother, no matter all the other kids are doing great, the mother's thinking, this child, where is this child? I can't be happy unless this child. Krishna is thinking like this. How is this child? And when that child makes a little bit of effort to reach out to the parent is incredibly eager. When we pick up our beads, that is reaching out to the parent. It's when we pick up when we take our time and resources and energy and come sit on the floor. People are gonna ask you guys what you did for vacation. You're like, well, you sat on the floor. Woke up. Well, did you get to sleep in? No, actually, we woke up pretty early. Well, at least you had a nice, beautiful Tuscan villa. Well, sort of. We had 8 people in a room.
It's kind of hot.
So that is a type of surrender. And when Krishna sees that surrender, a lot of people are listening on Zoom every day. I see them like Steady Letty. She's there every day listening, right? That type of steadiness towards hearing truth, that is showing something. Just like if I have a person coming to work at my house every day, I say, this person's actually committed. I'm going to take this person seriously. So Krishna becomes this Bhakta Vatsal. He becomes the dearest friend of the Bhakta. He's more eager to reclaim us than we are to be wanting to be reclaimed. It's quite amazing, Krishna's eagerness. And you're showing your eagerness by showing up, which everybody's doing here. If you're listening to this even a little, you're showing up for a little.
We're almost out of time, Raghu. But I thought maybe we could end this with 3 verses from the 11th canto. And the last verse is a really beautiful verse. And these are spoken by the sage Kavi to the king Maharaj Nimi.
Maharaj Nimi.
Yeah, there's so many great instructions in the 11th canto. And so the sage Kavi, he's speaking about bhakti in particular, as well as bhakti in relation to other practices of yoga. And particularly in this last verse, you'll see. So this Sri Kavi said, I consider that one whose intelligence is constantly disturbed by their falsely identifying themselves with the temporary material world, which is most of us, can achieve real freedom from fear only by worshiping the lotus feet of the infallible Supreme Lord. In such devotional service, all fear ceases entirely. Even ignorant living entities, like most of us, can very easily come to know the Supreme Lord, very easily, if they adopt those means prescribed by the Supreme Lord himself. The process recommended by the Lord is to be known as Bhagavat Dharma, or devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, this is the verse. And when we hear this verse, again, it's a verse that's comparing bhakti to all other practices and saying that this is unique about bhakti, right? Other practices you can't say this about, but bhakti yoga you can say this about. And this is the verse. O King, one who accepts this process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead will never blunder on their path in this world, even while running with eyes closed. They will never trip or fall.
How can that be?
And that's because, it's because it's like, even if it appears that we've fallen, actually nothing's lost. You know, on this particular path, because you're asking for assistance, you
Right.
know, from that being he's created the whole matrix that we're in. And so rather than saying, I'm still ignoring you, but I'm going to find my own way out of the matrix, you're saying, I can't get out of here without your help. I need your help to get out of the matrix. And they're saying, okay, go ahead. You know, like in the path of, say, karma, you have to do all these rituals just right. If you say the mantra wrong, you might not only not get the results, you may get the opposite results, right? Because because the head of the matrix isn't looking out for you. So you got to do everything just right. If you blunder, there's serious consequences. And other paths are similar to that, right? I may go practice Ashtanga yoga and, you know, live alone and suffer, you know, living in a cave and do all these, and never find that I do have the ability to concentrate my mind on the level that's needed, you know? So I've given up so much, I never achieved the goal, you know? But it's saying on this path, because Krishna's looking out for you, it becomes easy. It may seem hard to us, but in comparison to the other paths, it's actually very easy. We have to give up. What do we do? We're all enjoying life here, you know? It's like we're eating well. We're having, you know, enjoying each other's company. We're singing songs and so on. It's like, it's easy in one sense, right?
It's a party.
Occasionally
It's a party.
Occasionally we hit these bumps and we think, oh my God, this is so hard. It's nothing compared to what we would have to go through to achieve the very highest goal.
Right.
And so here's saying, you know, a lot of these paths are very difficult paths to walk. Like, for instance, if you read the Upanishads, it says like spiritual life is like a razor's edge. You know, it's just like one little slip and you get cut. Here's saying you could run blind. You could run blindfolded. You're never going to trip because Krishna's looking out for you. It's not sectarian. It's just saying that look at all of Vyasadeva's works, see that for different people in different ages, at different times, you know, these were more appropriate or effective. But bhakti always goes right to the very heart, and particularly in this age where we're very weak in austerity, where we're very weak in memory, we're very weak in peace of mind. Bhakti becomes the most viable path.
And so just to reaffirm, this isn't Kaustubha's take on the Bhagavatam. This is the Bhagavatam. This is sort of the ripened fruit of the author of the Vedas,
Vyasadeva.
Vyasadeva. This is his take
on the whole thing.
On
and
everything.
Who's more qualified to speak on it than him?
Yeah, he's like writing the cliff notes, basically,
Right.
of all the Vedas.
Right.
And highly recommending Bhakti.
There you go.
There you go.
All right.
That's good.
Thank you.
Mara, tell us something important that we can use in our life today.
Okay, I got some good takeaways today. Pope Francis and Jesus put Shravanam first.
Oh, very interesting. Okay.
Jesus Ki Jai.
Pope Ki Jai.
Pope Ki Jai.
Set aside time for hearing sacred literature.
Okay.
Cheers to that.
Don't go wide, go deep.
Don't go wide, go deep.
Come on.
You look like you weren't so deep right there for a moment. Okay, well, that's what you're doing. Okay.
There's beauty in a life of devotion.
Yes, and a death of devotion, even in death.
Yeah. Death comes like a cat. Be a kitten, not a rat.
Don't be a
that's
rat.
That's a
Don't
rap.
be a rat. Be a kidding.
Oh no, hold it. Say that like you got to rap that like the Sugar Hill Gang.
You try it.
I don't know. I don't have it. I don't have it. I thought maybe you could handle it, Raghunath. At least say it again.
Death comes like a cat. Be a kitten, not a rat.
It comes like a cat. Be a kid and not a rat. That was pretty bad.
You needed a beat.
Stick to hardcore.
We don't need to give up everything. Just give up our desire to enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds bad though. When you say give up your desire to enjoy,
Yeah, that
sounds like be miserable. It's better. We're enjoying, but right.
Yeah.
We're not the center. We enjoy by serving.
To
the
enjoy separately from the source of your existence.
Center. Yes. Don't do that again.
Bhakti is our boat in the ocean of material existence.
Okay.
Bhakti is our boat.
No, don't even try. There's no need. There's no need
My
for
love
it.
is like a ship on the
Oh.
ocean. This is a perfect bhakti song.
Yeah,
We are sailing with this cargo full of love and devotion. Who knows
Like
it?
to know
Who knows
it.
that song? Thank you. All right, two old guys.
Krishna is eager to reclaim us.
Okay.
Replace Catholic wafers with club jummins.
There you go.
You know, I had a friend who worked, as an altar boy. He stole a package of those wafers.
What do you do?
We ate them. We just ate them. I had a whole package of wafers. They were not good.
Maybe
That's
they
it.
needed some dip.
That's the story.
You're getting guacamole?
Guacamole. Hare Krishna.
Well, they weren't offered yet. They weren't. The ritual hadn't been done.
Yeah. It's like the glove jumping you get in the
Yeah,
cans.
it was like boga.
It's not the same. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for live. Woo! It is beyond live. They are live. And we are all here singing and swimming. Next up, swimming in a river and a waterfall today. Then going to Siena and singing and chanting and going to the famous devotee hat maker.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't even know we're coming. We're going to just show up chanting right in his door and blow his mind. I hope he's there. Thanks, everybody, for